The next song on my debut album was a song called These Words, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about what that song means to me and how I ended up writing it. I was driving home from work one day, and it's kind of later in the evening, and there's a church on the way to where I used to live in Waco, Kentucky, and I actually see the guy changing the sign on, out in front of the church. In this particular church, they always had some sort of very self-righteous saying or misapplication of scripture on this billboard. For example, you may have heard somebody say this or seen it yourself, that stop, drop, and roll doesn't apply in hell. And it was this kind of stuff that was on the billboard. And so got to thinking about that, about this guy changing the sign out there, and wondering what his thoughts were on it. Maybe he was the one coming up with the slogans. Maybe he was the one coming up with it. I don't know. But the songwriter in me starts taking over, and by the time I get home, I've already come up with one line and wrote the whole song pretty quickly. By the next morning, I'd forgotten that I had my guitar that I usually write on in drop D tuning. I picked my guitar up and I strummed it, thinking it was in standard tuning, and it was messed around a little bit, and I was I came up with the melody for that song pretty quick. But anyway, the meaning behind this, it kind of goes back into my own personal life, my journey, my religious journey. I was raised in a very strict household, generations of the same style of religion. I don't want to call it out specifically, but it is one that you've probably seen walking around neighborhoods, knocking on doors. And I decided to leave. I started waking up. Too many red flags were going off. The way that the people in the congregation were treating each other, the hypocrisy that I saw, how certain people at the top were able to get away with things that the people in the middle and the bottom were not. All that just it started waking me up. So by the end of 2019, I decided that this was no longer something that I wanted to be a part of, and stopped attending the meetings, and started having some marital issues that were exaggerated by the fact that I was walking away from everything in the religion. And so we had been separated on and off for a while. So then the pandemic hits. My wife leaves, she gets her own place, and I ended up writing a lot of songs during this time period, which are a lot of them are on the album. But long story short, in the song These Words, you have a guy that he's changing the sign out in front of the church, and he has this realization that some of the things that he had been putting on there were very judgmental and self-righteous, and it dawns on him this is not something I want to do anymore. And so he takes the letters and puts them in his truck, and he drives out to the river, and he throws them in the river. So that was kind of me. That was me just saying, you know what, I've had enough. I had enough, and I was going to start doing things my own way. And what it cost me was a lot of close relationships that I had, a lot of family members. They just cut me out of their life, and they think that's the loving thing to do. So I really started soul searching and trying to figure out who I am, who I'm supposed to be, and I found myself writing and singing and trying to support my friends that were trying to do the same thing. And I realized that this was something that I'm passionate about. This is something that I feel like I'm supposed to do. I've always supposed to have been doing it, and I had a very late start. I woke up as a 39-year-old man one day and realized I started to realize what my talents were, and the things that I had been squashing in myself, just because I was supposed to look and act a certain way as part of my religion. The things that I was really talented at, the things that I was passionate about, were things that I was always told that unless I used them for the organization, that it was wrong for me to do those things, such as like going out and playing music for a living. It was almost laughable when you would say something like that, because you're supposed to give yourself to the organization, and everything you did, there's just a lot of pressure all the time, and I just couldn't take it. But anyway, the song These Words, I feel strongly about that song. The way that it was produced by Dwayne Lundy is just it sounded exactly the way I wanted it to come out. And so I don't know if you have a similar story, or there's something that stands out to you about the song, just leave a comment for me, and if you got any questions, I can answer them. But again, I support. Thank you for all your support, listening to my music and downloading it and streaming it and sharing it. All that really does make a difference. So that's These Words. You can check out the other video about Outside the Lines, some of the background on it, and I will continue this until I get the album explained. Have a good one.